On a cold Wednesday evening, my 38-year-old daughter pushed me down the stairs because I asked her to pay 1 month of rent. I tumbled backward, hit the landing hard, and lay there gasping in pain while she stood at the top, her face twisted with rage. I didn't call the police. I didn't scream. I just picked myself up, limped to my room, and stayed silent. The next morning, I woke up early, made her favorite beef stew from scratch, and laid out fresh towels in her bathroom like I always did. She came downstairs, rolled her eyes at the breakfast I'd prepared, and said, "Don't embarrass me like that again, Mother." Then she walked into the living room to grab her phone. And froze. Because sitting on my couch were 3 people she never expected to see. And what they had to say would shatter the life she'd built on my broken back. Hello, and welcome. Let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so much that you let them destroy you, piece by piece, because you couldn't bear to lose them? Have you ever been afraid of your own child? If you've ever felt trapped in your own home, walking on eggshells around someone who should love you, then this story is for you. Share your experience in the comments if you feel comfortable. You're not alone in this. And if you want more stories about finding strength when you thought you had none left, please subscribe. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is finally say enough. My name is Samantha Robson. I'm 64 years old, and I'm about to tell you the hardest story I've ever had to tell. It's about my daughter, Ruby. Ruby is 38 years old, unmarried, and for the past 6 years, she's been living in my house, the house I bought with my late husband 30 years ago, the house I worked double shifts as a nurse to pay off, the house that was supposed to be my sanctuary in retirement. I bit my tongue. I didn't mention that I'd worked my way up from a nurse's aide, taking night classes for years to get my RN license, while raising her as a single mother after David died. The months turned into years. Ruby stopped even pretending to look for work. She slept until noon, spent her days on her laptop or her phone, ordered takeout on my credit card, and treated my home like a hotel. And I let her, because I was afraid. Afraid that if I pushed too hard, she'd leave and never come back. Afraid that I'd lose the only family I had left. But fear has a price. The disrespect started small. Ruby would leave dishes in the sink for days. She'd eat the groceries I bought without replacing them. She'd invite friends over late at night without asking, and I'd hear them laughing and drinking while I tried to sleep in my room, my door closed, feeling like a stranger in my own home. When I asked her to clean up after herself, she'd sigh heavily and say, "God, Mom, I'll do it later. Stop nagging me." But later never came. Then came the financial pressure. My retirement income wasn't unlimited. I had my pension and Social Security, but I also had a mortgage to finish paying off, property taxes, utilities, groceries for 2 people, and medical expenses. The money Ruby spent on takeout, rideshare services, and online shopping was adding up. 6 months ago, I sat her down at the kitchen table. "Ruby, sweetheart," I said carefully, "I need to talk to you about money." She looked up from her phone, annoyed. "What about it?" "I'm struggling to keep up with all the expenses," I said. "The credit card bills are getting out of hand. I was thinking maybe you could contribute something. Not a lot. Just maybe a few $100s a month to help with groceries and utilities." Her face darkened. "Are you serious right now?" she said. "You want me to pay you rent?" "Not rent exactly," I said quickly. "Just help with expenses. You're living here too, and—" "I'm your daughter," she interrupted, her voice rising. "I can't believe you're actually asking me for money when you know I'm struggling." "Ruby, you haven't looked for a job in over 5 years. Because there are no jobs, Mom." She slammed her hand on the table. "But you wouldn't understand that because you're from a different generation. You think everything is so easy." She stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me sitting there alone. I didn't bring it up again for months. But the bills kept coming. The credit card debt kept growing. And I started having to choose between paying utilities and buying my blood pressure medication. Ruby's behavior got worse. She started talking to me like I was stupid, like I was a burden. When I'd come home from my part-time job at the community health clinic, yes, I had to go back to work at 64 because I couldn't afford to support both of us. She'd barely look up from her phone. "There's no food," she'd say flatly. "You need to go shopping." Not hello, Mom. How was your day? Not thanks for everything you do. Just demands. When I'd gently remind her about something, an appointment, a bill, anything, she'd snap, I know, Mom.
Jesus.
Do you think I'm an idiot? My friends from my book club started noticing the bruises. Not physical bruises, not yet, but the emotional kind. The ones that show up in your eyes, in the way you apologize for everything, in how small you make yourself. Samantha, are you okay? My friend Patricia asked me one Thursday after our meeting. You seem different lately. I'm fine, I said automatically. Just tired. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning. 3 weeks ago, I reached my limit. I sat Ruby down again. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to speak. Ruby, I can't do this anymore, I said. I need you to contribute. I'm asking for $500 a month. That's less than a quarter of what it actually costs to support you, but it's something. I need you to help me. And where exactly am I supposed to get $500? She asked. You could get a job, I said quietly.
Any job.
Even part-time. There are positions everywhere. I'm not working at McDonald's, Mother, she said, her voice venomous. I have a degree. I have standards. Then maybe you could sell some of your things, I suggested. You have designer bags you never use, clothes with the tags still on. Are you seriously telling me to sell my belongings?
Her voice was rising now.
After everything you've done to me? After you failed to give me the life I deserved? I blinked, shocked. Failed you? Yes. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You were so busy working all the time that I barely had a mother. And now you want me to pay you back for doing the bare minimum? Tears pricked my eyes. Ruby, I worked to give you a good life. To pay for your college, your car, your... I didn't ask to be born, she screamed. The words hung in the air between us. I stood up slowly, my whole body trembling. Ruby, I'm not asking anymore, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm telling you, starting next month, you pay $500 in rent, or you need to find somewhere else to live. Her face transformed into something I didn't recognize.
Purerage.
How dare you, she hissed. And then she moved toward me. I backed up instinctively, but we were at the top of the stairs. I didn't have anywhere to go. Ruby, I started. She shoved me.
Hard.
I felt myself falling backward, my arms flailing uselessly. I hit the third step, then the fifth, then the landing, my body a tangle of limbs and pain. I lay there, gasping, staring up at the ceiling. Everything hurt. Ruby appeared at the top of the stairs, looking down at me. For a moment, I thought I saw fear in her eyes. Regret. But then her face hardened. Maybe next time you'll think before you threaten me, she said coldly. And she walked back into her room and closed the door. I lay there for 20 minutes before I could move. I didn't go to the hospital. I should have. My ribs were bruised, maybe cracked. My hip screamed every time I moved. There was a gash on my elbow that probably needed stitches. But I didn't go. Because if I went to the hospital, they'd ask questions. They'd see the bruises, the way I winced when I breathed, and they'd want to know what happened. And what would I say? That my daughter pushed me down the stairs? They'd call the police. Adult Protective Services would get involved. Ruby would be arrested. And despite everything, despite the pain radiating through my body, despite the coldness in her eyes as she looked down at me crumpled on the landing, I couldn't do it. She was still my daughter. So I stayed silent. I cleaned myself up in the bathroom, swallowed for ibuprofen, and wrapped my ribs with an elastic bandage I found in the medicine cabinet. Then I limped to my bedroom and lay down in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Ruby never came to check on me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt myself falling again. The next morning, I woke up at 6 out of sheer habit. My body screamed in protest as I sat up, but I forced myself out of bed. I had made a decision during those long, painful hours of darkness. I went downstairs, moving slowly, and started cooking. I made Ruby's favorite meal, the beef stew my mother had taught me to make when I was young. The one with red wine and fresh thyme that had to simmer for hours. The one Ruby used to beg me to make when she was little before everything changed. While the stew cooked, I cleaned the house. I vacuumed, dusted, changed the sheets in Ruby's room. I laid out fresh towels in her bathroom, the expensive ones she liked. I even put a small vase of flowers on her dresser. I moved through the house like a ghost, every movement calculated and deliberate. Because I needed Ruby to think everything was fine. I needed her to believe she'd won. Around 9:30, I heard Ruby's bedroom door open upstairs. Her footsteps on the landing, the same landing where I'd lain in pain just hours before, made my stomach clench. She came downstairs in her silk pajamas, yawning, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look at me as she entered the kitchen. "Morning," I said quietly, stirring the stew. She grunted in response. I'd set the table with her favorite mug, fresh coffee already poured, and a plate of the croissants she liked from the bakery 3 blocks away. I'd walked there despite my injuries, because that's what she expected. Ruby sat down, picked up the croissant, and took a bite. "Is that my stew?" she asked, glancing at the pot on the stove. "Yes," I said. "It should be ready by lunch." She nodded, still looking at her phone.
Good.
"Melissa is coming over around noon. We'll eat then." Melissa, her friend who treated my home like a day spa and never once thanked me for the meals I prepared.
Of course, I said.
Ruby finally looked up at me, her eyes scanning my face. For a moment, I thought she might say something about last night. Apologize. Ask if I was okay. Instead, she said, "You look terrible. Did you sleep in your makeup?" I touched my face instinctively. I tried to cover the bruise on my cheekbone with concealer, but clearly it hadn't worked. "I didn't sleep well," I said. She shrugged and went back to her phone. "Well, make sure you shower before Melissa gets here. And wear something nicer than that." I looked down at my clothes, a simple blouse and slacks. The same kind of outfit I always wore. "Ruby," I started. She held up a hand without looking at me. "Actually, you know what? Just stay in your room when she's here. I don't need you hovering and making things awkward." Something cold settled in my chest. "This is my house, Ruby," I said softly. Her head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" I saw the warning in her expression. The threat. I swallowed my words. "Nothing. I'll stay upstairs." She stared at me for a long moment, then smiled. A smile that didn't reach her eyes.
"Good.
Don't embarrass me like that again, Mother." She stood up, taking her coffee with her, and walked toward the living room to grab her phone charger. That's when it happened. Ruby stopped in the doorway. She went completely still. "Mom."
Her voice had changed.
The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that sounded like fear. "Mom, who are these people?" I walked slowly into the living room, my ribs aching with every step. Sitting on my couch were 3 people. Patricia, my friend from book club, who happened to be a retired social worker. Officer David Chen, a police officer from the local precinct who attended my church. And Dr. Helen Moss, my former supervisor from the hospital, who now worked with Adult Protective Services. Ruby's face had gone pale. She looked between them and me, her expression shifting from confusion to realization to panic. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice sharp but wavering. Patricia stood up first, her expression gentle but firm. "Ruby, my name is Patricia Wells. I'm a friend of your mother's. These are Officer Chun and Dr. Moss. We're here because we're concerned about Samantha's safety." "Her safety?" Ruby's voice rose. "What are you talking about? I'm her daughter. I take care of her." "Do you?" Dr. Moss asked quietly, standing as well. She was a petite woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Because from what we've observed and what Samantha has shared with us, that's not quite accurate. Ruby's eyes shot to me. "What did you tell them?" I stood in the doorway, my hand pressed against my ribs, and met her gaze. "The truth," I said quietly. "The truth." Ruby's laugh was sharp, almost hysterical. "You're making things up. You're confused. You're old. You probably fell and now you're—" "Ruby." Officer Chen's voice cut through her panic. He was a large man with kind eyes, but his presence filled the room with authority. We need you to sit down. We have some questions for you. I don't have to answer anything, Ruby said, backing up slightly. This is insane. Mom, tell them. Tell them I didn't do anything. I said nothing. Mom. Ruby's voice was pleading now, desperate.
Please.
Don't do this. I'm your daughter. Your only family. Patricia stepped forward. Samantha, why don't you show them? My hands trembled as I reached for the hem of my blouse. Slowly, I lifted it to reveal the elastic bandage wrapped around my ribs, and beneath it, the purple and black bruises that had bloomed across my side. Ruby's face went white. I didn't. She started. That's not, she fell. We know she fell, Officer Chin said. The question is how. Dr. Moss opened a folder she'd been holding. We also have documentation of financial abuse. Credit card statements showing excessive charges. Witness statements from neighbors who've heard verbal abuse. And medical records showing a pattern of injuries over the past year that Samantha explained away as accidents. This is ridiculous, Ruby said, but her voice had lost its strength. You can't prove anything. Actually, Patricia said quietly, we can. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. Ruby's voice filled the room. I didn't ask to be born. Then my voice trembling. Ruby, I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you. Ruby's scream. How dare you? The sound of a scuffle. My cry of pain. The terrible, hollow thuds of my body hitting the stairs. And then Ruby's cold voice. Maybe next time you'll think before you threaten me. The recording stopped. Ruby stood frozen, her mouth open, her face ashen. Patricia was on the phone with me, I said quietly. I'd called her for advice before I talked to you. I forgot to hang up. Ruby's legs seemed to give out. She sank onto the arm of the chair, staring at nothing. No, she whispered.
No, no, no.
Officer Chin pulled out a small notebook from his pocket, his expression professional but not unkind. Ruby Robson, he said carefully, I need you to understand the seriousness of this situation. What we've just heard is evidence of assault. Potentially assault of an elderly person, which carries enhanced penalties in this state. Elderly. Ruby's head snapped up, and for a moment, I saw a flash of her old defiance. She's not elderly. She's only 64. She still works, for God's sake. The legal definition is 60 and older, Dr. Moss interjected calmly. But that's not really the point here, is it, Ruby? Ruby's hands were shaking now. She clasped them together, trying to hide it. I didn't mean to push her, she said, her voice small. We were arguing. She was threatening to kick me out of my own home. Your home? Patricia's voice was sharp. Ruby, this house belongs to your mother. She's been supporting you for 6 years while you've contributed nothing. That's not true. Ruby's voice rose again, defensive. I help around the house. When was the last time you cleaned anything? I asked quietly. Ruby's mouth opened, then closed. When was the last time you bought groceries? I continued, my voice steady despite the trembling in my chest. When was the last time you paid a bill? Or thanked me for keeping a roof over your head? I'm your daughter, Ruby said, and now tears were streaming down her face.
You're supposed to take care of me.
That's what mothers do. The words hit me like another shove. Because part of me, a deep, wounded part of me, had believed that too. Had believed that being a mother meant endless sacrifice, even when it destroyed me. Dr. Moss sat back down on the couch and spoke gently, like she was talking to a patient. Ruby, I've worked with hundreds of families in crisis. And I can see that you're hurting. But what you've been doing to your mother isn't daughterly need. It's abuse. And it's been escalating. I didn't abuse anyone, Ruby protested weakly. Dr. Moss opened her folder again. In the past year, your mother has been treated 3 times for injuries she claimed were accidents. A sprained wrist, a concussion, and a dislocated shoulder. My face burned with shame. I hadn't realized anyone had been keeping track. Were those accidents, Samantha?
Dr. Moss asked gently.
I looked at Ruby, at my daughter, who was staring at me with wide, frightened eyes.
No, y whisperat.
The wrist was from when she grabbed me during an argument. The concussion was when she shoved me into the kitchen counter. And the shoulder. I closed my eyes, remembering. The shoulder was when I told her I couldn't afford to pay her credit card bill anymore. She yanked me backward so hard something popped. Ruby made a strangled sound. Mom, I didn't mean. Every single time. I continued, my voice growing stronger. You told me it was my fault. That I was clumsy. That I was overreacting. That I provoked you. And I believed you. Because I loved you so much that I'd rather believe I was the problem than face the truth. What truth? Ruby whispered. That my daughter has been hurting me, I said, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. And that I've been too afraid and too ashamed to stop it. Officer Chen cleared his throat. Ruby, I need to inform you that we have enough evidence here to charge you with assault and battery, elder abuse, and financial exploitation. Ruby's face crumpled completely. She slid from the arm of the chair onto the floor, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Please, she choked out. Please don't arrest me.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Mom, please, tell them I'm sorry. I watched my daughter fall apart, and something inside me was breaking too. But not in the same way it had been breaking for the past 6 years. This was different. This was the breaking of chains. I know you're sorry, Ruby, I said softly. But sorry isn't enough anymore. She looked up at me, mascara running down her face, and for a moment she looked like the little girl who used to crawl into my lap when she was sad. What happens now? She whispered. Officer Chen glanced at me. That depends on your mother. She can press charges, or we can pursue other options. Ruby's eyes locked on mine, desperate and pleading. Other options? I asked. Dr. Moss nodded. Given the circumstances, and if you're willing, we can arrange for Ruby to enter a mandatory treatment program. Anger management, therapy, and a psychiatric evaluation. She would also need to find alternative housing immediately and agree to a restraining order while she's in treatment. A restraining order? Ruby's voice was barely audible. You're going to keep me away from my own mother? You pushed her down the stairs, Patricia said bluntly. Yes, Ruby. You need to be kept away until you get help. I moved slowly to the couch and sat down, my body aching but my mind clearer than it had been in years. There's something else, I said quietly. Something I need to say, and I need Ruby to hear it. Everyone waited. I looked at my daughter, sitting on my living room floor, destroyed and desperate. Ruby, I love you, I said. I have always loved you. But somewhere along the way, you learned that my love meant you could treat me however you wanted. That there would never be consequences. That I would always be here, always give in, always put you first no matter how much it cost me. Ruby was crying silently now, her hands covering her face. I enabled this. I continued. I made excuses for you. I let you hurt me because I was afraid of losing you. But the truth is, I lost you a long time ago. The daughter I raised wouldn't have done these things. And the woman you've become, I don't know her. Mom. Ruby's voice broke. So here's what's going to happen, I said firmly. You're going to accept the treatment program. You're going to move out today. And you're going to do the work to become someone who understands that love doesn't mean ownership. That family doesn't mean servitude. I took a shaky breath. And if you do that work, real work, Ruby, not just going through the motions, then maybe someday we can build a new relationship. One based on mutual respect instead of fear and obligation. Ruby lowered her hands, her face blotchy and swollen. And if I don't, she whispered, then I press charges, I said simply. And you face the full consequences of what you've done. Officer Chen stood up. Ruby, I need an answer. Treatment program and immediate relocation, or we proceed with charges. What's it going to be? Ruby looked around the room at the faces watching her, then back at me. The program, she whispered finally. I'll do the program. Dr. Moss nodded and began making notes. You have 2 hours to pack your essentials, Officer Chen said. Dr. Moss will help arrange temporary housing, and you'll need to be out of this house by this afternoon. Ruby nodded numbly, then slowly pulled herself to her feet. She started toward the stairs, then stopped and looked back at me. I really am sorry, Mom, she said, her voice small and broken. I know, I said. But sorry is just the beginning. Now you have to prove it. 2 hours later, I watched from my bedroom window as Ruby loaded 2 suitcases into Patricia's car. Dr. Moss had arranged for her to stay at a transitional housing facility that specialized in cases like hers, adults in crisis who needed structure and support. Ruby would start intensive therapy there the next day.
I didn't go downstairs to say goodbye.
Dr. Moss thought it was better that way, and I agreed. We'd said everything that needed to be said. When Patricia's car pulled away from the curb, I sat down on my bed and cried. Not the silent, ashamed tears I'd cried so many times before. These were different. These were tears of grief, yes, but also of relief. Of release. Of freedom. Officer Chun and Dr. Moss stayed for another hour, helping me document everything for the restraining order and setting up a safety plan. They gave me resources, support groups for victims of family violence, counseling services, legal aid information. You did the right thing, Dr. Moss said as she was leaving. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you may have saved both your life and hers. After they left, I walked through my house slowly, room by room. Ruby's bedroom looked like a tornado had hit it, drawers hanging open, clothes scattered everywhere. She'd taken what she needed and left the rest. I closed the door. Then I went to the living room and sat on my couch, the same couch where 3 strangers had sat that morning, and helped me reclaim my life. And I breathed, really breathed, for the first time in 6 years. That was 4 months ago. Ruby completed the 60-day treatment program. I got updates through Dr. Moss, but Ruby and I haven't spoken directly. The therapist said she wasn't ready yet, that she needed more time to work through her issues before we could have contact. I thought that would hurt more than it does. But the truth is, these have been the most peaceful 4 months of my life in years. I changed the locks. I redecorated Ruby's old room and turned it into an art studio, something I'd always wanted but never had space for. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since David died. I joined a support group for family violence survivors. Hearing other people's stories helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault. That loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you. I even started dating again, a kind man named Luke, who I met at church. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to be treated with gentleness and respect. My physical injuries healed. The bruises faded. My ribs don't ache anymore when I breathe. The emotional scars are taking longer, but I'm working on those too. Last week, I got a letter from Ruby. Not a phone call, not a text, a handwritten letter.
In it, she apologized.
Really apologized, without excuses or justifications. She told me about her therapy, about the things she's learning about herself, about how ashamed she is of who she became. She asked if, someday, when she's healthier, we might try to rebuild our relationship. I haven't written back yet. Not because I don't want to, but because I'm taking my time, learning that it's okay to put my own healing first. That forgiveness doesn't have to be immediate. That love without boundaries isn't really love at all. Maybe someday Ruby and I will find our way back to each other. But this time, it will be on terms that honor both of us. This time, it will be healthy. So let me ask you this. Do you think I should have pressed charges instead of giving Ruby the option of treatment? Was I too lenient, or did I do the right thing by giving her a chance to change? I struggle with that question every day. Part of me wonders if consequences without mercy would have been more appropriate. Another part of me hopes that mercy with accountability might actually save my daughter. What would you have done in my position? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective because this wasn't an easy choice, and I'm still learning to trust my own judgment again. And if this story resonated with you, if you know what it's like to love someone who hurts you, or if you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own safety, please subscribe. These stories need to be told. Your story needs to be told. Because sometimes the most loving thing we can do is say no more.